Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Abhijit Baduri, and I am back with the Talent and Tech Talks. I have with me my colleague and partner in crime, Todd McLeese. NVIDIA briefly became the most valuable company on the planet. I mean, and wow, I mean, what a massive growth the company has shown. What was your take on it? It just took it 9 months to move from 1 to 2 trillion, and then so it's just amazing growth of the AI industry in general, and of course, chips are powering it all. What was
Yeah, I
your
think I read 100x over the last 8 years, right? So, I mean, obviously fueled by this massive demand on the side of generative AI, and based on everything I've read in the last week or so, I don't see the demand changing in the very near future. It will be interesting to see if AMD and Intel and some of the other chip companies can even make any kind of a push to prevent NVIDIA from just continuing to have explosive growth. I mean, they've all announced their plans around GPUs and AI chips and so forth, and we know that some of the large players in the generative AI space have been working on developing their own so they could become less dependent on NVIDIA and their cost structures and so forth. But I just wonder, will anybody be successful given the amazing head start that that organization has?
Oh, I absolutely think that Nvidia is in that zone where they have already finished taking about 4 rounds of the field, and the rest of the race is just getting started. It's one of those. I mean, if you see, their shares have gone up about 215% in the last 12 months, or 3,400% in the last 5 years, and in 2024 alone, Nvidia gained about 175%. By comparison, Microsoft gained about 19% in this year. The Surgeon General's, the warning on social media, I think it is going to go through legislation, and are we going to see some of that? I mean, I know that TikTok is facing some inquiry, and there are a couple of other changes that are happening. But is it really going to see that kind of a label as you see on cigarette packets or something? Will that
It's
happen?
a far cry from Section 230, right? But I saw some of that chatter today as the Surgeon General announced that, and Jonathan Haidt, who I pay a lot of attention to in the space, who recently wrote the book or released the book, The Anxious Generation, but a few years ago, The Coddling of the American Mind. He was out on X talking about this, and I responded to him and just said, why would we wait for generative AI to get the same warning? Should we really wait a decade or two before we think about the amazing opportunities, but also the risks associated with Gen AI?
I wrote a post on my newsletter last week where I talked about, the big shift that has happened, the rise of social media since 2010, particularly after 2015. If you really see, there's a dramatic increase in the levels of anxiety and self-harm and depression and all of that mental health challenges, especially among the teenagers. People are beginning to use Reddit for their search. So
Mhm.
of course, seen different ways in which people are changing their behavior and what they search for. They're also using chat gpt and the equivalent for search, but they are also doing Reddit. YouTube is the second largest search engine. So I think search is beginning to see a number of little verticals. So when you're searching for products that you want to buy, people are looking at the Amazons of the world as a search engine. They're looking at that.
Mhm.
Reddit is really, what do you think? Is this even reasonable? Is this legit? Those are the questions people are going to Reddit for. So I think even the questions that people are using in search are getting categorized. What's your take?
Yeah, on YouTube, I suppose, how do I want to consume the answer, right? And for many people now of every generation, it's I want to watch a video about it. I want to watch a 3 minute or less video that explains the answer And so I think, obviously a real opportunity there for YouTube and some of the other leaders in the space. Reddit's a really interesting one to me. I've been sort of in and out of that platform over the last many years. And, it gets very dark very quickly on Reddit, right? And so I think that's not the answer to solving the safety issues as it relates to social media. I did see that the governor in California today also banned phones from schools. And so I think we'll start to see more of that. And I think that will be welcome by.
The way we are consuming content in multiple formats. And you talked about video becoming so popular. I would also actually add and say that, I imagine that content is going to see two kinds of videos. One is the video, which is the equivalent of, when you write a blog post, you write the first one or two lines is really about giving you two lines summary, which says, in this article, we explored these 5 areas of doing X and X, Y. That equivalent is going to be those 30-second videos. So if you like it, you're then going to go back and watch maybe a 3-minute video or a 5-minute video.
Content and learning and development. I mean, we're producing a couple of videos a day right now on the human skills front for the learning content, and they're faceless videos with my voiceover using 11 Labs. So we're just uploading a script and my voice comes in automatically over a video track that they're leveraging AI to get B-roll from. I mean, I think we're going to see so much, right? The dynamic nature of, on the music front, what Suno just came out with version 3.5. You see Sora and Luma and all of these other tools on the video front. I think give it another 6 to 12 months and it's going to be ridiculous, because 12 months ago, it wasn't very good at all, right? So the rate of improvement, if they can solve some still significant issues from a production quality standpoint, it's going to change everything in terms of the way we think about making content, short form, as well as, I think, in the movie studios.
How do we build a really healthy relationship with AI? And, so I want to talk about 4 principles that we should be using as we are looking to build optimal relationship with AI. And just to put a context in this entire thing, the way I would describe it is that think about AI as a new colleague that you're hiring, somebody who's really smart but doesn't quite know your working style and your setup and is new to the organization if you're looking at it in your context. What are the ways in which we should be looking to build a healthy relationship with AI? What's that mindset? So let's get started with that. So what do you think is the first piece that you want to talk about?
I really want to start with the why as it relates to building optimal relationships with generative AI tools. The way we do that is by building healthy habits and sustainable practices. And the reason it's necessary is because there is an incredible number of opportunities at work, at school, in life, to take advantage of generative AI to augment human capabilities. But in the research that I've been doing, there's also a significantly longer list of potential risks, not unlike social media, actually, where it connected us and gave us opportunities to form community and opportunities for business and so forth over the last 2 decades. Mm-hmm. But of course, it's a dual-edged sword. Social media, perhaps you could make the argument that there's more harm than good. I think we were just talking about that. And I wonder if we're not intentional about the relationships that we build with generative AI, if we don't go down a similarly slippery slope. I have felt times, I feel like I'm being productive, and at the end of that session or that hour or whatever the case may be, I don't have anything that I actually produce that's of value. And so I think there's the opportunity for lots of wasted cycles, but it goes much deeper than productivity gaps. It's also just around mental health and well-being as well. And I think that's really the important part about building these healthy habits and sustainable practices when we're using generative AI. I And the first principle, you mentioned there are four. The first principle around that is to be human first in the way we think about AI. And what I mean by that is that, many people talk about human in the loop, and making sure that people and humans have oversight over what AI is doing or deciding or whatever the case may be. But I'm suggesting that given the technology and its shortcomings today, it has tremendous strengths, but really big gaps. Depending on the context, for instance, if there are external stakeholders or I'm working on something that's really important to my job or my career, or whatever the case may be, we really want to be intentional about what we're offloading to the AI. You come to understand that it is amazing at producing certain types of content and so forth, but oftentimes I hear people say it lacks my voice, it lacks the human element and so forth. And so by being human first and being intentional about what we offload, we're actually building in this layer of safeguards. For the moment, the AI is not capable of replacing, even if it can emulate human capability, it's not capable of replacing human capability. And so it gives us the opportunity to make those decisions as the technology continues to improve.
But I think you raise a very important point. The first piece of the four was that, this is how human first AI would be. And to summarize what you said, think very hard about what you are going to, offload to AI. And before you begin to go all out and say, we don't need any more humans in this entire process, I just really think that think pretty hard and before you make such calls, because it's something that it's a mindset and you have to be very careful about what you remove from that equation. And you remove people, it's very hard to bring back the same set of people back into the process when you make that change. So the first recommendation is, be very cautious, be more conservative perhaps in this whole journey. Onboard your AI. And I'll add to what you just say about how do you onboard AI.
It's not that different than onboarding a talented new colleague. So over time, over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see new models be released, and they're going to be quite a bit more powerful than those that we're currently experiencing, which were already exponentially more capable than the version before them, right? And so it will continue to improve, and we will stop using familiar phrases like treat your AI like an assistant or an intern and so forth. And we're going to start to realize that in some ways, not all, but in some ways, the AI will have greater capability than we will. And so I think of it as we just made a new hire and that person is extraordinarily talented, but they know nothing about our company. They know nothing about who they're working with, whether that be an individual or a team or whatever the case may be. And they don't know their way around. And so no matter how talented you are, when you walk in the door on day one, you still have this feeling of anxiety as to whether or not it's a good fit. Absolutely. And just like people, it's a little unfair to take the wrapper off of your new ChatGPT license or your new Copilot license and expect it to be extraordinary from the beginning. Instead, much like we onboard people into organizations, you can go through the steps to onboard your AI tool into your personal workflows, into understanding more about who you are, what your expectations are, what you're looking for from them, the strengths that you have that you want the AI to amplify, and the gaps you might have where you need the AI to augment your capabilities. I'll give you one example of that, and I'll let you go. I'm not the greatest non-linear or lateral thinker in the world. I tend to be pretty much down the middle when I get going on something. And so I often ask my AI tool to make sure it provides novel insights. Now that we've been working together for the last several months and it has memory, which not all Gen AI tools have, it knows that I'm always looking for novel insights, and now it just offers them to me instead of me asking. And so that wouldn't have been possible on the first day. I would have to write a prompt specifically for that. But now, because of the frequency with how we work together and how often we work together, the AI has begun to learn what I need and delivers that without me asking.
The image that comes to my mind is, when you are, as I've been very fond of theater, when I look at, you learn a new role. So you take on a new role in theater. You are trying to learn the lines, so somebody is there, will you read it out, and, you still don't remember all of it. And then somebody has to prompt you a little bit and remind you and cajole you and nudge you to move in that direction. And there comes a
Sure.
point of time when you really understand the lines. That's when you can start to interpret the character. So it's not just about the line, but that this character would say it in a different way. This is where they would put a little more stress, this is what they would skip, and maybe they would sort of have some kind of mannerism while as they're saying it. All these improvisations are possible as you learn more about, the words are known to you, and you can create that a lot. Not very different from what organizations could do when they onboard people. And most organizations still are working through about what constitutes great onboarding. So one of the measures I would look at is, if a person, who you hire, actually nobody hires a terrible person, but if the person that you hire doesn't do well in the first 6 months or a year's time, you really need to worry about the manager's capability to onboard this
Right.
person. So I think that's the yardstick I would take, as you are looking to onboard AI. That AI needs to understand you as a person, your tone, your voice, your preferences, and as you feed it back, as you complete the loop, that's really how AI can do a really great job of it.
Yeah, it reminds me of a couple of things. One is I was watching Stanley Druckenmiller on CNBC recently when his firm made an investment in Perplexity, and which is an amazing AI tool, especially around search and
Hmm.
research.
Yep.
But he called it an answer machine and the answer machine economy and so forth. And that's a part of what we are looking for from generative AI tools. You mentioned earlier that people are beginning to use ChatGPT and tools like it for search, right? And so that's a piece of it, but that's not where the power lies in these tools. Where the power is in the tools that have these capabilities is an ability to sit down alongside of it, work together, and actually build a relationship where you come to know what its strengths and weaknesses are, what it can deliver for you, and you're very clear with it, maybe more clear than you've ever been with a person, because it's just a box, right? It's just a tool.
Yeah.
You can be extraordinarily clear about this was unacceptable and so forth. And oftentimes, I think when we're dealing with people, that feedback slips until it becomes a real problem, as you talk about the first 6 or 12 months. So that brings to mind then the workshops that we've both conducted for companies and institutions of higher education around the country. And you know that a lot of times when people are in these workshops, they're looking for a reason to say it doesn't work, right? It's hallucinating or whatever term they want to use. And oftentimes that's somebody who just sits down for the first time. They're using a less capable model, which is no longer really an issue given all the free capabilities that are now available. And they ask it a complex question, and it gets it wrong. But what was in the prompt? I mean, there's all sorts of nuances here
Yeah.
about you're the manager. How did you treat that? Did you just expect it to deliver A+ work, or did you put it in a position to succeed? And the onboarding piece is a big chunk of that.
And I remember this conversation with one of the workshop participants was that I said, think about this not as a as an assistant that you're hiring and not as a junior employee. Think about it. This is the co-founder of your startup. So you have
Right.
that's another way to
Beautiful.
that. It's probably a much more powerful way to look at it. And we come to the third element, which is how do you include Gen AI and build a culture of experimentation? What does that look like?
Well, I really love your co-founder example. That metaphor really works, right? Because this is about co-creation. And similarly, with this third principle around including generative AI in a culture of experimentation, not only is it necessary for an organization who's going through an AI transformation to look for ways to instill a growth mindset and build a culture of experimentation internally, but by having the generative AI tools at the table, there's an opportunity to understand the uneven performance that it sometimes offers, right? So if this is going to become a key tool, a go-to tool, and I'm working with a company right now, which is about 1,000 employees. You know who they are.
Yep.
And, we're working with across multiple different business units and departments and within those business units. And as we've gotten from leadership to that next level of management down, there's all sorts of opportunities for them to create these small work groups or these different teams and gamify building a culture of experimentation, getting people to leverage these tools to build things very quickly. Hackathons over the course of a half a day or a weekend or a couple of hours at evening with some happy hour cocktails, etc. I mean, there's all sorts of creative, depending on the culture, there's all sort of creative ideas that companies are using now to help people understand that they can build solutions very quickly with these tools, or at least proofs of concept. And then what happens just naturally is they come to understand like it really struggled over here, but this is where it excelled. And that filled a big gap on our team, or that really helped us take our strengths to the next level.
To build a sense of play as you are building all of this. So do it more as a point of having fun, experimenting with it, go into uncharted territory, try out something really unusual, think of weird possibilities, and then blend all of it in. Because I think when you look at everything that's very logically done, you're probably not going to do anything new, because logic only takes you down one particular straight convergent path. But to discover possibilities, you really need to start thinking in a divergent way.
I
What's
love
the
that idea,
experiential?
Abhijit. Sorry, I love that idea around creating this sense of play, because the opportunity too is to sort of break down organizational lines and create this diversity of thought across multiple disciplines within the organization in order to really get the most out of those types of exercises. So I love that.
So the last one is the exponential improvement that's going to happen, which is the last piece. As we are coming to the end of our time, so this is the piece for you to do.
Yeah. So the last time around, when we were together last week, we talked about Eric Schmidt and his podcast, where he was talking about 1,000 to 10,000 times improvement, and I saw Kai-Fu Lee he didn't quantify it, but he talked about the scaling law and stated that the hardware and the data are certainly going to get better and more plentiful and so forth. And so the models are definitely going to improve. And again, he didn't quantify it. But if you believe that scaling the hardware and the data lead to more powerful models, which it has done to this point,
Hmm.
it certainly lets us understand that for the next couple of years at least, we can see our way to better performance. That doesn't mean that all of the flaws that exist today get addressed, right? Nobody's saying that in the next 2 years, generative AI is going to be perfect. There is a group of folks, Gary Marcus and others, who really don't believe that language models are going to continue to scale the way they have. So I don't know enough about it to know where I fall on that. I do know that it's probably somewhere in between what the experts on either extreme are saying. And I know that that means that I have to, and our clients and the organizations we work with, and you have to, we need to prepare for the possibility that these models continue to get more powerful. That's the only way we can give people the runway they need as these models become more capable of performing in the top quartile of human performance. Because that's all it takes. I don't believe we need artificial general intelligence or super intelligence. We need to plan for these machines to be capable, not for everything, but for some things to perform like the people in the top quartile of performers in our company. And when that's true, in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot more offloading to the AI for certain tasks and processes and so forth. It will be really interesting to see how we go from here to there.
And I think that's the time when each one of us has an opportunity to maximize our own potential. And I think that's the entire spirit with which I would approach the human first AI, economy. I think it's a time of tremendous possibilities, and I really think that it's for us to make the most of it. And with that, thank you very much once again for being here, and appreciate your doing this. If for all those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, you can leave the questions here in the comment section, and we'll get back to you with each one of the questions that you put there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.